with saying something was in Proto-Bantu that's not in the Northwest, but there's something else in the Northwest that maybe, I'm not sure, is connected with that thing, okay? And, well, let's see what's going on here. First of all, let me thank Yannicka for giving me this map, which is going to help, which will help explain what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about two phenomena that I first encountered in the Angolan language, Ubuntu. Besides Tilo's great work, it doesn't get mentioned that much, and I have some additional data, which is probably my primary motivation to share certain data with you that I've been sitting on forever. You know, it's time that it was out there. So that'll be the main thing, but I'm going to make a story about Proto-Bantu for it. And the interesting thing is, all right, let's talk about this. All right, two things. How many object markers, whether in Proto-Bantu, how many were you allowed? Well, I don't know. I just want to take the simplest case of more than one being two, okay? That there was more than one. It's not that they grew, but that they've been lost. And I'll talk about certain reasons that some of them, in some areas where they got lost. But what I want to start with is how they're arranged, because there's a remarkable number of different strategies that are used to arrange these object markers. By the way, let me say something, hope it's not too obscure, about the function of the object markers, which I think is to indicate that whatever entity they're indexing is topical in that clause, whatever that means. And that means something like, it's already been mentioned, so you know what it is, or it's given, you know, like first and second person, so they're always topical. That brings me to an issue of vocabulary that I'm used to thinking in certain terms. I don't think they'll be hard for you to pick up if you're not using them, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's look at this map. This map will then give you the distribution to a certain extent. It's actually wider than shown on the map. Of where you have more than one object marker, can have more than one object marker in a verb, and then there's an intermediate type where you can have, let's see, so you have multiple, okay, that's like two. 1 plus means you can have two under certain circumstances. And I'm sure that the circumstances that Yannicka, when she used this map, would have talked about is that if you have a first person singular, or possibly reflexive, you can also have another object marker, and that's it. Okay, so it's limited in one of those object markers. By the way, in that case, it's usually that first person singular or the reflexive is the closest thing to the verb. And the other one comes before it, comes to the, I'm not good on left and right, let's see. Left, yeah, left. So, okay, the blue ones, the blue circles are only single object markers, okay? Probably, if you know Swahili, it only has one object marker. I mean, it's really quite extreme in that, even if you passivize, you just can't have any object markers, because the subject marker is really an object marker, but in function. The 1 plus then we see in various areas, and to my view, what happened is they lost privileges of occurrence. Of course, I'm going to say that the multiple object markers, or just double object markers for my purposes here, are original. And I think they're original in Proto-Bantu, so that's the one I'm going to try to get away with, and I'm going to show some other phenomena that I think are related. Maybe not, maybe we'll have arguments about that. So the purple then shows the distribution of the full double object markers. But hidden in that are a number of different strategies for how these markers are arranged, how they're organized. Different languages do them in different ways. And what attracted me about Ubuntu, it's the only language I know that does it the way that it does it. And I had come to a certain conclusion about how that relates to Proto-Bantu when I first started thinking about talking about this here. And it goes back to some older work that I had done on it. And then when I was on the plane, I got a totally different idea. And my whole paper went out the window. And you'll see what the new idea is, but you'll see what the old idea was too. And there might be bits of the old idea still left in the second part, which has to do with what happens in passivization. And again, Ubuntu, passivization. And I don't know, I'm getting ahead of myself on this. Let me just show you some of the things that are missing. Hey, where'd it go? Oh, I have to keep it down. Okay, so not shown on the map is an area over here of Bobangi, like, you know, like the source of Lingala, somewhere in the sea area. Also, multiple object markers. And as far as I know, you can have all of them. I may be wrong about that because I took my information from an old grammar by John Whitehead from 1899. But maybe you could at that time, and things change. Sometimes they change quite rapidly with these kind of things. So he didn't show first and second persons. Anyway, if I don't talk too much about this stuff and I get back to that, I have those examples someplace in the handout. No, you know, the non-handout. All right, the other one, and this one, you know, I'll be telling you until you're sick of hearing about it, is Ubuntu. Oh, here it is, down in the R area, and also Kwanyama. They have multiple object markers, okay? So these multiple object markers are actually even more widespread than seen on this map. Now you can already understand why they're not going to be in zone A or B in the Northwest. I mean, you're lucky if you get one object marker there, right? So, all right, so I think that gives me a shot to be a little convincing on that. But you still want to see the correlations. The correlation has to do with the certain interesting things that happen with passivization and passivization of the direct object. The direct object, which is the object of the root verb, obviously then a transitive verb, is key to some of this phenomena. Okay, I need to get to my examples now. All right, so I'm calling, here are the topic coding. Okay, topic coding is about marking things with object markers. Oh, and the subject marker, let's forget that. That's the number one big one, okay? That's your number one topic. Another way of, and then the object markers are the other topics, and you can arrange them in various ways. All right, I just wanted to do a little vocabulary on that, so you don't think I'm going into some kind of weird theoretical, yeah. All right, SM for subject marker. I'll try to say subject marker, but I'm going to forget sometimes and say SM. Can I get away with that? Thank you, thank you. Object marker, ON, all right? An extension, I'm not going to call it an X, I can't pronounce that. I don't need it anyway. As far as I know, we only have two transitivizing extensions. We have the causative and the applicative. If there are any more, don't tell me now, you'll throw me off. And pass, the passive marker. I'm giving you this because I shorten things. I'll even leave morphemes out and put ... but I see I wasn't the only one to do that, so I feel better about that. The DO, yeah, that's very important, and I'll probably forget, you know, direct object is a mouthful and say DO a lot. And then there's the EO, the extensional object. Oh, now I gotta remember which way to go. Did I do it? Yes. Yeah. All right, the CO, so that's the causative object, okay? As if it was a preposition or a verb, but it's not, it's an extension, but still, it's the object of the extension. It's going to come before the root verb, of course, because the root verb is the boundary between the domain of topicality and the domain of something else, focus or whatever. I mean, focus should be in there. So that's one thing. BAO. So these are both two different types of EOs, okay? Is that all right? Now you know what I'm talking about. Please. All right. Transitivity. I had a problem with that at first. I had it more complicated. I think it's simple. Thematic roles allowed to an object by the controlling root verb or extension. All right? Simple as that. And it's a principle for ordering OMs in, there it goes, object markers in some Bantu areas. For example, the Great Lakes area of Northeast Bantu, zones E and J, well, they're all zone J if they're Great Lakes. And Ubuntu in the Central West Bantu, okay, in zone R. Thing is that they, although they do ordering by transitivity, they do them in opposite ways. So it's going to be interesting to try to explain how that works. I forgot which way I'm going. Oh, doing pretty good. Contextual topicality is topicality which comes from discourse. You've been talking about something, you want to keep talking about it, you want people to know that's what you mean, that you know, it comes out of the context of discourse. And, okay, what did I say? The determination of the topicality of a referent, which is an entity usually first introduced in a discourse by a nominal or pronominal head, relative to the topicality of other referents in a clause according to the local discourse context of preceding clauses, okay? It's possibly, okay, this is where I got my idea on the plane. It's possibly an ordering principle for OMs in some Bantu languages. Tswana, kind of mysterious how Tswana works. How do people talk it? They got to put one of the two ones first, but we have no clues to which one they'll put first in many cases. Kwanyama turns out to be key. I didn't know about Kwanyama until recently, although the data was available, but I didn't know. And that turns out to be very helpful and helped me change my ideas. And apparently Korea, which you know is a JE language in Tanzania near the lake, or on the lake actually. So for all these languages, there seems to be what they call free OM order. You can put them in any way, but what does that mean? I mean, people are not randomly generating these things. They're probably not using them that much. We know that. They're not going to be using multiple object markers much, but they have feelings about them and they have opinions about which way they get arranged. And that's what I'm trying to account for. And know that people who spoke Proto-Bantu also did. But what were their feelings? All right. So that's contextual topicality. That's determined by discourse. Then we have inherent. I didn't break up this stuff, so I'm afraid this is going to fly away if I advance. Then inherent topicality, you don't need the discourse context. You just look at it, and certain things are inherently more topical than others for whatever reason. First and second persons are inherently topical because they're always given, all right? If the language is egocentric, I don't even want to go that far with Bantu, then with Proto-Bantu, or PB, I forgot that one. Yeah. Forgot what it's saying. Yeah, okay, so those are inherently topical. Number one, probably inherently topical, is the reflexive because it refers to the subject marker, and the subject marker is the number one topic, okay? And if the reflexive refers to the subject marker, then it inherits its topicality as being really high, and that's why that one might survive too. Well, I'm saying that's why. I'm not sure that's the explanation for why these things remain when other things had dropped out, but they're certainly more inherently topical. Again, remember that topicality means you don't have to refer to the discourse context. It's now built in, it's been grammaticalized. And then, of course, as we all know, humans are more inherently topical than inanimates, and that has a lot of consequences in Bantu languages. So, okay, I think I can move on. Forgot which way I'm going. Okay. I don't even know if I'll get to that. It doesn't really matter. I can't do everything that I'm thinking, but yeah, so here's the reflexive mark, and here's what I already said about it. Okay, now we have the macro stem, but you all know what the macro stem is. I don't have to dwell on that, I think. The macro stem is the root verb plus whatever extensions you have, and that can start acting like a verb on its own and swallow up whatever syntactic privileges the root verb had when it's alone, when it's not inflected by the extensions. Yeah, I'd rather give examples than talk about this abstractly. Internal passive, just the way of referring to a passive that comes before what? The applicative, it turns out. Never the causative, as far as I know. If you ever were able to passivize an object and indicated it was the direct object, that is the object of the transitive verb, by the position of the passive, it had to be before Proto-Bantu, because no Bantu language allows that, as far as I know. So if you know differently, I want to know at the end. Next, the chicken and the egg problem, of course, right? You all know the proverbial chicken and egg problem, and we keep finding it. Yeah, it comes up all the time. Almost every talker comes up. So, you know, which came first? Metaphorically speaking, the chicken. Well, where the chicken came from, an egg. Yeah, but who laid the egg? The chicken. So, but the way that we broke that impasse is finally, okay, who laid the egg? A dinosaur. All right? So that's the third possibility. It's the first time I've used that in 50 years. But okay, so we know that, right? I mean, you believe that birds came from dinosaurs. Right? Also, it kind of fits, right? We're looking for the dinosaur. So, you know, when I show you two states and I want to relate them, it's A goes to B or B goes to A. Or what usually happens, there's some C that we have to reconstruct that goes to both A and B. And I was too lazy, I hate to say that, to make a tree. So I just said A or B here. All right? All right, data. Okay, here's Ubuntu. This is the thing that got me started on this. When I did this work on Ubuntu, I didn't know that much about Bantu. I knew mainly Swahili and something about some of the other, they were all single object markers. So I found this very fascinating, and I had no idea that I would never find another language like this. And here's what's going on here, and I don't think you know any other languages like this. All right, first of all, it's multiple object markers, multiple OMs. So what do we have here? In 1A, we have Wa Kutu Kongisa. He had you recruit us. That's all it means. It can't be the other way. So it's CODO, right? Causative first, the causative object first, then the direct object. Always remember that the direct object is the object of the root verb. It'll keep us on track. It'll be important later. So if we flip them, that's fine too, but we change the meaning. So the CODO remains the interpretation, and I had us recruit you. And then something occurred to me recently, but before I got on the plane, okay? Which is that this is exactly the order you get in the root verb. So the CO, of course, as we know, is the subject of the root verb, all right? So it's going to be the first thing. It's the first, what's my cover term? It's number one topic, okay? Number one topic, and here's number two topic. And this is imitating that sequence. But not only that, when we look at the order of a post-verbal, the two post-verbal objects, then of course we won't have the object markers. It's not one of those permissive languages that has doubling, which I think is also an innovation, but that's something else. So, okay, wakongisa ongunja akwenje. He had a farmer recruit some boys. And again, we're still getting that same order, all right? If we change the order, oh, I didn't bother to do it, but if you change the order, you would be changing what you're saying, you would be changing the relationships. So, again, with the post-verbal objects, we have the same order. All of this looks pretty bad for the, what was it called, the mirror image thing? Not the one with the extensions, the ones where you get the mirror of the order of the object markers, which a lot of other Bantu languages have, as we'll see. All right, so again, okay, I just gave you the, okay, so I don't know why, but I just gave you the object marker form of these two things. I don't remember why I did that. Did it change? Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, but now something different happens when we have an animate, or a human and an inanimate. So now we have the girl made the man build a house, okay? This we can change the order of this, all right? And it doesn't matter. Just rely on pragmatics to figure out whether the girl had the men build a house or had a house build the girl. It's not hard to figure that out. The lexical arguments, the lexical structure of the root verb helps you understand that. So now it's C-O-D-O or D-O-C-O. So now I guess what we had there is, with the previous examples, if they're two humans, you have to have some order so you know who's who. That is post-verbally. But you don't have, if you don't need order, you don't have to have it. Oh my God, I knew that. I know it. All right. Oh, good, higher. I like higher. I can't get it right. It's getting cut off. Okay. Well, let's compare that with higher, which is actually more typical and also rich because it has two different strategies. Here's the A strategy from Durante, the famous article, of course, wonderful article. Akatukul letela, okay? Don't be distracted that I use the applicative instead of the causative. In these cases, sometimes it makes a difference to things, but not in this case. And I didn't have any causatives in higher or any other language that I could see to look at. Apparently, this is not a hot topic right now, but it is one that concerns me. All right, is this the non-ambiguous one? Yeah, sure. This is the non-ambiguous one, okay? So this is also being ordered by transitivity, but it's being ordered by transitivity in the opposite direction. All right, now let's, where to go? Oh, yeah, go backwards. I'm not used to this. All right. Now, but now when you switch the order in these things, now you get ambiguity. And the reason you get ambiguity, many of you already know, is because it's not being ordered by a transitivity principle. It's being ordered by an inherent topicality principle, which said that the highest topic gets ordered, I was going to say first, no, last. So I don't remember what Durante actually said here, but I'm saying that the first person plural is higher in topicality and higher than the second person singular. I had the impression he was saying the opposite at one time, but I think that shows it, and other languages will bear that out. Too bad I even mentioned that. So now we have three principles. Descending transitivity, okay, meaning we started with the highest topic. I mean, we're only dealing with cause, but don't let that worry you. We're getting to something else. So it's descending. The order of object markers is the highest one first, and then it goes down to a lower one. The Northeast Lake area, the Great Lake area in general, is ascending transitivity. Okay. And then we have ascending topicality. We have both of these principles. So is any one of them Proto-Bantu? Let's ask Mason. Here's what Mason said. In a verb form, there may be more than one infix, the nearest to the radical corresponding to the object, nearest to the verb in comparable constructions. A little too succinct, I think. I thought at first what it meant was that the Proto-Bantu order is like the higher transitivity order, that we have a flip or the mirror of the the post-verbal nominal order. So the mirror. So then Ubuntu must be new, because it has a copy. Why would that happen? Why would Ubuntu flip them? All right. Yeah. Oh, I went backwards again. Oh, okay. So then I thought about it some more, and he left a little wiggle room in there. Maybe he's not saying that this is a transitivity order. Maybe you have freedom of order like you have with the human and the inanimate. I don't know. I think he may have left that as a question. With the human and the inanimate, which could be in either order, so whichever one comes first, that would be the last one, all right, in Proto-Bantu. That gets us somewhere. Yeah, root verb versus macro stem. Okay, so let's look at some more orders. So he's saying there's freedom. That he could be saying that there's freedom. He might not be saying that those orders are fixed. I kind of doubt that he's saying that, actually, given the language he was working on. But he could have been saying that. He could have been hedging. Okay, look at Tswana. Tswana's, we don't see any order. Looks like you can do whatever you want in Tswana. You can put them one way or the other. So I actually had to show that with two different things. Not ordered according to topicality, and it's not ordered according to transitivity. It's either way, up to the listener to do the work to figure out what they mean. Of course, the speaker has to do some work to figure out which way to put it. Kwanyama was the key for me. It's the one that gave me my idea. So Zimmerman and Hashila say that, first of all, they say that they're just putting this in to clarify things, that of course you don't need to have these left dislocated topics. But just to clarify, they're suggesting that the object marker that's closest to the topic, that they're ranked by topic. Contextually, whatever you want, whatever the discourse makes appropriate to be the first topic, or the second topic actually, because we have the subject mark is always going to be the first topic. That's the one that'll come closest to, that'll be drawn to the left. So here with cattle, then the object marker referring to cattle is drawn to the left. But with water, gave the cattle water, is that what it is? Yeah. Then water is drawn to the left. Maybe that's the principle in Tswana, or at least these varieties of Tswana that are free, which seems to be in every variety that I've read about, except for coal, actually. And so maybe that's it. And that would go along, we could interpret Mayas in that way. We could actually say, yeah, that's what he's saying. You have freedom of which noun phrase, which of the objects you put first if you have two objects after the verb. But that will determine what your, well, he's saying it determines the object marker, but it doesn't determine it. It's something that comes before that determines it. But he allows for freedom of the object marker. I'm finished. All right. We can talk more. I just want to show you what happens with the, I'm going backwards. I just want to show you, let me take a few minutes just to show you what happens with the passive. Because that came up the other day when we were talking about passives. And whether you could have the, oh, look at all of this. Loaded with it. Here's what you do in Ubuntu. I think I had more. Oh yeah, the house was built for the girls. Here's our applicative suffix. Passive, applicative, okay? Again, it's just like the verb. I didn't really get to talk about the root verb, but the root verb is being respected here. We're getting the passive suffix on the root verb where it belongs. Am I good? All right, well that happens in, now when we go to the Northwest, this is the connection with the Northwest. We find that too. This was, where is she? Where are you? I'm gonna give you credit. Where am I going? Oh, Friesen, okay. So this is from Friesen's dissertation on the Mbonge dialect of Oroko, which is pretty far north, but pretty amazingly looking like a narrow Bantu language. But it's doing something that Ubuntu does too. Okay, what it's doing, all right, we have the direct object passivization, and we have the applicative, and then the passive, okay? No, I mean the passive and then the applicative, okay? So again, the passive is coming before the applicative. We don't have that with the causative, so all her causative examples show that they're causative passive. So to make a long story short, the template already worked on the causative. That happened before Proto-Bantu, but it didn't happen for the applicative. Okay, they're different in that respect. But then there's another complication, which is that if we look at this example down here, we can passivize the applied object, and we still get that order. So it looks like it was templated in the opposite order from the causative, for whatever reason. I'll skip Larry's data. I don't have any time anyway. I think you get the idea. We can talk about this.
What's Proto-Bantu?
Huh?
And Proto-Bantu?
Oh, yeah. I think I forgot about Proto-Bantu. All right, I gotta admit, my interest is not specifically in Proto-Bantu. It's in the processes of change. And unfortunately, I knew this would happen. It looked like in my head this took 5 minutes to say twice this much, but yeah, I'm out of practice, so it didn't work out like that. Okay, what I'm saying now, and it's probably wrong, I'm not that all that sure about it, is that in Proto-Bantu, of course, we already had the template working on the causative. okay? So if you passivize either object, and I guess you could passivize either object, you did get the passive following the causative. But the applied was not that integrated yet into the system, okay? Again, I didn't really get a chance to make that point. I got work on this. So it wasn't integrated to the same extent as the causative. So when you did the direct object, you got the passive respecting the root verb. This, by the way, also happens in East Bantu. Look at the Dropbox, and you'll see the examples. And in fact, Larry showed me the example in Jijewa. And it depends on the function of the applicative as to how you passivize. Well, you scared me. Oh, they already said 0 minutes, so I'm okay. All right. Anyway, we start seeing parallel things coming all the way down. We're getting restrictions. I wanted to show you Kimbundu. You get restrictions on what you can do with the applicative. So this is one place where I'm not so sure what's going on and whether this has implications for Proto-Bantu or it's just some kind of aerial phenomenon that unites the Northwest with further southern west areas. But in Lomongo, according to Hulstadt and Devo, I had a hard time finding examples until I found Devo because Hulstadt had said that you can have either order. And by the way, you can see that I don't care what the form is of the passive. So in this area, as we know, there's a great area of variation into how the passive, if you'll allow me to even use that term for these markers, but we don't have the bu or the ibu or the u passive, but we have something instead, a stative or something, and ama in the west, ika in the east also, and I don't know if those two things are connected. Anyway, there you have variation. You can have it either way, according to the what Hulstadt and Derlopit said about Lomongo, Kimbundu. Too complicated, I'll leave that alone. I'm going the wrong way again. All right, here's the Zulu example from Buell's dissertation. With locative inversion, right? So, oh no, that's not it, is it? I think I went too fast. Yeah, this one, all right? Both of them mean the child was beaten on the porch. I didn't want to translate the other one as on the porch when there was beaten the child, but so they're both the same. But when this is the subject, the passive comes before the applicative because the child is the direct object of the verb. That's East Bantu, Southeast. And here, where the locative is the topic, let's say, I don't know if we want to call it the subject. Yeah, we'll call it the subject. Then it's outside. Then the passive is outside. And that's what he reported in his dissertation on Zulu. And okay, just want to show you the Chewa one because it's cool. And I didn't know about it until Larry sent me his paper. And I had to think about it, and this is what I come up. It's the last thing I'll say before you can talk. I hope. All right. Oh, I went into this whole digression. Let me get back to. All right. Here's what happens with in Chichewa with the locative and the locative inversion. Okay. Here's the locative inversion. Here's the lack of inversion. What did it mean? The firewood, kuni, right? And kuni was tied passive in the forest. Okay, so here's the locative inversion. And it doesn't matter, you can do it either way, all right? So this is in the process of change, I would say, comparatively speaking. And the same thing with this. But now, last thing. All right, last thing, have I got it? Oh, the firewood was being typed for money. It's gotta be before the applicative suffix, okay? It's gotta be passive and then applicative. And you can only say the firewood was tied for money. You can't passivize this. Just like in Ubuntu and like these other languages, Kimbuntu and, well, that's enough. Okay, so I'll stop at this point.
Are there any very urgent questions on this topic? Otherwise, they might come up at a roundtable discussion at the end of the day.
I know I shouldn't be the last speaker before lunch.
Okay, if not, we'll now have our lunch break and we'll be back again at 1:30.
Okay.